Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Intuition Unleashed a Revolution in Personal Liberation podcast. I am your host, Beck Nelson, and today I am so excited to have the lovely Michele Johnson, a.k.a. the Stress Strategist, with us today. So let me read you a little bit about Michele because it's pretty impressive. And some of these things we're going to have to ask about because some of them I don't even know what they are. So she's going to have to explain this to us. So Michele is a Duke trained physician associate, CEO of the Pain Free PA consulting firm, an ICF certified life coach, positive intelligence mental fitness trainer, and international best-selling author. Ooh, I want to know more about that. She attracts high achieving leaders bouncing back from stressful events. Her firm has impacted Fortune 500 nonprofit and healthcare industry leaders by providing the missing link to resilience in the face of change and mental fitness. And she has used strategies that she used to heal her own 21 years of chronic pain. She's used mental fitness to compassionately uncover blind spots in leadership and get to the root level of impact change. And there's a whole bunch of, she's done this all across the globe. And I can't wait I'm so excited to introduce you to Michele Johnson. Welcome, Michele.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here this morning.
So, Michele, you had told me you're coming in from Georgia, and I am in Rhode Island. So we're actually in the same time zone. That's really difficult for us in here. And welcome. There's all kinds of things I want to understand about who you are and what you do, and so that you can share this with the audience. So can you tell me first, who is your ideal client?
My ideal client, when I talk about who I attract those high achieving leaders and teams who are bouncing back from a stressful event. So that stressful event could have been a person on our team has had a heart attack and everybody else is looking around to say, who's next? It could be bouncing back from I made a huge mistake. And now I'm blaming myself, guilting myself, shaming myself, and I can't seem to move forward. So those in the mentality of bouncing back are my jam.
Okay, that's why. So I should tell people that you and I, when we first met, and we met probably maybe a month and a half ago, and we were in a group, and I could tell, like, when I was introducing myself and said what I do, and then when you were introducing yourself and said what you do, we were both like, "Ooh, I need to talk more to her," right?
Yes, I remember. And
Because
here we
we were hearing the word spirituality and reframing and intuition, and we were both like, "Oh, we will. I'll have." I was writing down your name, and you were writing down my name. We have such a similar audience. Um, and so, what is the problem that you solve for these people that are bouncing back?
I solve that mental anguish and stuckness that is making us sick.
Like physically sick?
And I was going to explain physically and mentally.
Oh.
Because 77% of the reason why people come to the doctor is because of stress related illness. I said 77%, and that statistic was as of 2016 before the pandemic. Okay. So when we talk about mind body health, it's a real thing. Like the way we think, how we go about bouncing back from challenges, how we go about mending relationships and the conflicts that come up affect how we feel, how we show up in the world. And to be honest with you, I'm tired of people flipping me off on the road. I'm tired of people not being able to wait 60 seconds in line without blowing a gasket. And people need some help and some tools to calm down and live. So, what happens when people get on the other side of our training in mental fitness is they learn how to tap into themselves as the authority on their lives and stop looking for an external validation. They start to peel away all those things that have kind of collected in our mind that we have to be rational about and lean into intuition and what our body says and our connection with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're right, we're so connected. And I know that the audience listening is like, oh, yeah, that stuff, because people are drawn to connectedness. And so that is my answer to that question.
Okay. And you know what? I love several things about that, but I think people spend a lot of money trying to have other people give them answers when really we need to teach them how to get the answers from themselves.
That part. It's not a guru or an expert. Look, we're not trying to make carbon copies of ourselves. You have a unique genius that you are the puzzle piece that we're waiting for. And because we're stuck in thinking like everybody else in the logical frame of mind, the thinking mind, you can't think your way out of stress. You can't think your way out of that rumination that we seem to do with blame, 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 shame, 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 guilt, guilt, guilt. And so knowing that we can't think our way out of it,
For sure.
knowing that there's more to it.
The other piece that you brought up, which is very important, is that the physicians are really people who are seeing with the front line. They are seeing people who are coming with physical ailments that are actually caused by some kind of a mental health that's a problem. And they get very minimal training on dealing with mental health issues and recognizing, like, I think one class or something in medical school. Is that right?
Mm. Now, I had the benefit of being trained at Duke University in their PA program, which is #1 in the world. And I feel like one of the things that they did really well was train us on motivational interviewing of a patient. The first minutes of our interaction belong to the patient. And what that means is people get to empty out their story. People get to tell you exactly what's going on. You get to ask questions on it. Problem is, even with that training, you got 15 minutes in a lot of doctor's appointments. I remember when I worked in traditional medicine, there was 3 appointments booked in 15 minutes. So how do you have time to even ask the right powerful question to get someone to reveal something that will be helpful? So
Wow.
you throw in stress and the underlying cause, the I didn't see that cause. I mean, I had 2 boxes of tissue in my room because I cried with 4 or 5 patients every single day who came in for sore throat, cough, and I found out they were slitting their wrists at home. I found out that they're on the verge of falling over that cliff. But if you wrote down sore throat, you're going to get a 15-minute time slot.
Right.
So there's that dichotomy of more than one problem, and leaning on the resilience that you can create with your own mental fitness, knowing who you are, knowing what you're here to do, that spiritual intuition component of uncovering your wiser, sager self is invaluable because we can't lean on our medical system to help. It's a sick system, not a health system.
That's for sure. That's tragic. So you mentioned specifically PAs are trained that way, or at least where you were trained at Duke. Do you believe that physicians also receive that much education about mental health?
And remember, I didn't even say mental health training. That was training in motivational interviewing and learning how to get the most out of the patient. So I don't know that mental health is a big um, training for physicians. I know you can specialize in mental health. And so you talk about going to a psychiatrist or even our licensed clinical social workers or our EAP programs that we have on work. And what happens is either there's a difficult time getting insurance accepted,
Yep.
there's a difficult time finding an appointment that you can actually go to because you work,
Hmm.
or there's a barrier with your own vulnerability and being able to trust the people that you're speaking with. So we have some barriers. The education of physicians being one, but there's only so much you can know. It's really not their specialty to do mental health. Just saying.
Truth, but yet these are the people that are seeing people
Absolutely.
because they're manifesting as physical pain, bringing them to their doctor.
Absolutely. And
Oh,
there's a disconnect between what's happening here and what's happening here.
so that's pretty much the problem that you solve, is helping to connect here and here.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what do you think are some of the common mistakes that people make when they're trying to solve that here to here problem?
First common mistake is leaning into someone else's intuition. Now, as leaders, high achievers, we're taught, You're supposed to develop this self-confidence, and you're supposed to be able to lean into your strengths. But people don't know what their strengths are. There's a disconnect between them and themselves with knowing what it is they really want, with knowing what it is they're really here to do, with knowing how that would work best for them. So the first mistake is leaning into someone else's intuition. And I will say there's a difference between following everything someone says and getting guidance. Getting guidance, getting coached, showing access to resources that are maybe locked away that you never seen before inside of you is different than saying, this is how Michele did it, so this is how I'm going to do it. We all have our different barriers. For me, it was 21 years of chronic pain, that disconnection between me and my body. I wasn't hearing the signals of stress. I wasn't hearing that I was working too hard, that I was pushing too hard. And so biggest mistake I see is that disconnection between what you really want and paying attention to what someone else says. Now, sometimes our body can trick us, our mind can trick us because we have self-sabotage and things that maybe have been traumatic to us. And so we don't trust our voice. We don't trust what we're hearing when we listen inward. And so learning how to uncover, hey, is that a voice that serves me? How do I kind of cut off that survival brain and build up the brain that I can trust? So that's what I do.
Wow. So you said a couple of things. There's a couple of problems in there, but it sounds like the first one is trusting yourself.
Absolutely. Many of us don't. We've kind of beat ourselves up because we've made mistakes in the past, and we've maybe had some past failures, and now we don't trust that we will keep our commitments to ourselves. We don't trust that we'll be able to actually follow through with the promises we made to ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So do you know any free actions that the audience can take that would help them with that particular issue of making that connection and trusting?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that question.
It's a loaded question.
Oh my goodness. When we talk about action, because we're such thinkers, right? Everybody wants to use their rational mind and read something. Get in your body. Get into your five senses.
Okay.
What am I hearing right now? What does this feel like? How do I actually feel on this chair? What does it actually feel like to breathe in and breathe out? Remember, we have this big old vagus nerve that connects from our brain to every organ in our body and sends signals back and forth. If we're all stressed out, overwhelmed, burned out, in conflict all the time, running, hustle, 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 restless, doing this, doing that, we don't even feel the body's warning signals. Hey, my tummy's hurting. Digestive system is the biggest concentration of immune cells. One of the first places when we are having anxiety that our body lets us know. Headaches, heartache. I spoke to a 32-year-old who had a stroke at
Wow.
32. Had to take off 7 weeks from work. So what we worked on is how do we get back into our body and recognizing, hey, when my jaw is starting to clench, when I'm starting to think and not be able to go to sleep well. Maybe it's taking a walk. I tell you, using positive intelligence to get back into my body, to learn, remember what touch feels like, to smell, to listen to the birds. You know those 4K cameras where you have your iPod and it looks like, oh my goodness, what are those colors?
Oh, yeah.
That's how it looks when I go outside now, because of the mindfulness I've built up in building those muscles of mental fitness. I actually see stuff different. So I mentioned that because getting into the senses taps into that innovative self that's really you, taps into why did that make me so upset? Why am I judging myself so harshly? Tap into the creative ideas that change the world. The Jeff Bezoses, the inventive billionaires that we look up to in this world, they give us rational data for how they came up with their ideas, but really they tell us how they had intuition. And it came from being in these senses, being in that mindful place, being in the present. And oh, here's an idea. Now let's make sure everyone sees how it works. And so that's the truth of things. The actionable item is the getting into the physical body of ourself. That vagus nerve that connects the mind and body is our awareness system. And so getting into that actual body is a big deal. Did you know that listening to bird sounds, you don't even have to listen to a real bird, you can listen to a recorded bird song,
Yeah.
causes positive mental effects to combat depression for up to 8 hours.
Really? I did not know that. So that's a valuable free action right there, is just listening to, you can pull it up on Pandora or your whatever, Alexa.
It's getting in that body, it's listening.
Huh.
So listening, we know our five senses: listening, touch, taste, smell, you know the other one. But getting into those five senses is part of getting back into listening and hearing inward.
Really, you're talking about being present.
I am. And that word, presence, mindfulness, I feel like we say it so much that people don't know what you're talking about anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of kind of woo and alternative thinking around things. And your audience probably has a very wide range of how we think, things we tap into as resources. And what I'm saying is we have all these tools in our toolbox. You don't have to keep using the hammer if you need a screwdriver. Okay. So I may not be able to sit down for an hour for yoga, but I'm able to go out for a 5-minute walk and hear the birds.
You're absolutely right that that's what people say a lot when you talk about being mindful, or they say, I don't have time for that. I can't sit still that long, and me included. I definitely say that. Ah, okay. Thank you. So how about a valuable resource that we can direct people to that would help them with being more mindful, being more present in their body?
So I don't advertise for anyone or anything like that, but I am a big believer in YouTube University and finding those 5-minute, 10-minute exercises. Like I do 10-minute yoga. Um, I do 5-minute tactile or listening exercises. I know on my website, I have where people can join me every couple of months for a roundtable discussion on best practices. Um, as a leader or a high achiever, if you're looking for other folks in that camp who are interested in this work, how do we move forward? And I can, offer that as a free resource to come to a roundtable event, meet other folks who are in the same like-minded way, and do business with people who actually are leaning into their fullness, their intuition, their full potential. So to back up, one free resource is the roundtable discussion on my website that I do every 2 months. And another is I love YouTube University for looking up exercises, just looking up physical exercises that we can do to get back in our body. I know for me, touch. I didn't realize how much we don't touch. And I can give you one of those exercises that combines touch, breathing, and presence right now. It's called Take 5. You have 5 fingers holding up your non-dominant hand. Take your dominant finger and trace, breathing in as we go up. Hold it. Breathe out as we go down. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. Breathe in. Hold it. Breathe out. Now, once you have traced all of your fingers with that motion, breathing in, holding it, breathing out, and you come back up the other side, it's actually bringing your attention to touch, to your breath, to what you feel. It takes 5 minutes. a bathroom break, on the way to the bathroom, sitting in front of your computer before a difficult call, after you've had a difficult call, to get back in touch with the here, the now, the present. So there's a great resource for
Well, it's funny, as you were doing that, I was like already at the top and holding, and I was like ready to just take the next breath. And like, just as part of it is you just go a little slower, right? We don't need to breathe so fast. Okay, thank you for that.
you.
And
Absolutely.
is there a question that I should have asked you that would be of great value to our audience that I didn't ask?
I love that question. Um, what I really love to talk about and love to think about with people is that the fact that there are solutions. One of the solutions we just talked about in mental fitness was getting back in touch with our body. Another is getting back connected to other people. And the question that I really was hearing and love that you talked about, despite not asking the question, is how do we reconnect?
Especially after a pandemic, right?
How do we reconnect to ourselves? How do we reconnect to others? How do we reconnect to our vision? And my answer to that question, the connectedness that we're yearning for, really exists in getting out of our heads, getting back into our bodies and our conversations with one another, getting back to being where your feet are. Sometimes our mind is so far ahead. We're thinking, thinking, thinking. Even when we go on vacation, I mean, we plan it to the T for many of us, right? We're tired when we come on vacation. We need another vacation. And that disconnectedness, that doing that has prevented us from being human beings instead of turning into a bunch of human doings. As a medical provider, as a leader, as a fellow human being, I just want to reconnect with you. Be human again.
And you know what? That sounds like grounding.
Very much so. And we all use such different words, right? For some people, you say grounding, it may feel, oh, I'm not going to woo woo,
Right.
right? You say presence, and it's like, oh, here we go again. Um, but that's why I want to make sure we know that you have more than one tool at your disposal. The thing that you've received accolades for, the brilliance of your mind, your ability to do that thing that you do is not the only reason you're here. And when you tap into the completeness of your mind body connection, the completeness of your intuition, the reconnection with other people, reconnection with your vision, mental fitness, it really gives you the wholeness of a life. Stop biting off the breadcrumbs and pieces of a
Hmm.
life.
Hmm. And that's an interesting analogy.
I mean, really, you know, people are so stressed. Like you don't have the bandwidth or the time to do stuff because your mental is going. We all get the same 24 hours. So the people who are creative and getting stuff done, I was going to curse, getting stuff done and really living in the magic of life, they have the same 24 hours. They're not meditating for 3 hours a day. Some
Hmm.
of them are, don't get me wrong. But for the majority of us who are out here doing things, we don't have time for that. And so learning the things that work for you, don't give up. Just because you heard grounding, don't give up. Find the way that makes it work for you.
So that's part of what you do is I'm going to help you find a way to do this that makes sense for you. It's very specific.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Personalized strategy. I have an upcoming mental fitness boot camp that's coming out March 1st. By the time this airs, I know it'll probably be already happening. But I tell people about mental fitness boot camp because it's 6 weeks of practicing these muscles, your self-compassion, your self-acceptance, your ability to be present and think and be creative and innovative, to get past your mistakes and being stuck. It buys back your time.
Truth. How often do you run that?
My next one, I have a waiting list for the May start one, and
Oh,
so
great.
um, I want people to see that this is not, you go and you learn these techniques, the 7 habits of highly effective people, the 24 competencies of emotional touch. Like, who can remember all this? There's over 200 wellness apps,
Wow.
over 200. Have you had time to vet all of those? I'm exposing people to what you can tap into inside of you that you can use for the rest of your life, how you work in your
Mhm.
mental fitness and your bounce back. And so I'm passionate about it. I'm excited about it.
I can tell that. I
It,
love
it
that. I love it when you can tell when people are passionate about something because that exudes off of you and that makes people want to know more because you love it. So I can show you how it can work for you and you and other people can love it.
Listen, 21 years of chronic pain. I woke up every day, sometimes crawling to the bathroom, sometimes falling asleep by stop signs on my way to work, in between stop signs, because I just couldn't stay awake. Feet burning when I reached the office, had to wear footies. Every day, something.
Wow.
Now, pulling away those layers of healing, of trauma, of stress in my body, of disconnection, took me 21 years. And then I found mental fitness and positive intelligence and ways to help people shortcut that dramatically. It's worth it.
I'll bet there's not even a value you can assign to how invaluable that is. So, okay, this is probably a great question for now, but this is the uh, Revolution in Personal Liberation podcast. What is your definition and understanding of personal liberation?
My understanding of personal liberation, the word liberation requires action. So you've done something, uncovered something, exposed something, stepped into something that has made you free, free to be all of you everywhere you go, to show up in your genius and in your imperfection all the time and be okay with it.
That is beautiful. Boo, I actually just got goosebumps at the end of that. Thank you. I always know we're in the right place when we feel that. I know how busy you are. You've got waiting lists for things that aren't even happening for like another 3 months. So clearly you've got some powerful things there. You've given us a lot of value in just a short period of time. And today's actually a holiday. We're recording this on a holiday and you've shown up and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure to your listeners. Thank you for spending this time together. Thank you for being present and owning this experience. If you didn't listen to the whole thing, go back and listen again. Be present and get what you need to move forward.
Okay, Michele Johnson, they can go to your website, share your website with us.
It is www.thepainfreepa.com or Michele at thepainfreepa.com, Michele with 1L. I look forward to engaging with you and helping you reconnect.
And what is the name of your book?
Gosh, we didn't even talk about the book. The book is called Pain Free: How to Live a Full Life Despite Chronic Pain. As a 21-year survivor of fibromyalgia and getting up every day, still making moves happen. That was my book, written as an international bestseller to help you move past living a life with chronic pain.
Amazing. Well, thank you for taking the time with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Intuition Unleashed. We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking. But before you go, we have a little challenge for you. Most of us have sneaky little habits that hold us back and trip us up, so why not take this not at all uncomfortable quiz to find out what you do to derail yourself from achieving your goals and how you can call yourself on your own BS. Get to know your self-sabotage specialty and take the first step towards getting out of the way of your own success. Just visit becknelson.com/quiz and take the quiz now. That's becknelson.com/quiz. We can't wait to see your results. And as always, we'll be back next week with more Intuition Unleashed. Thanks for listening.